Hey, it's 6:45 Thursday, the 8th day of October. How many days under lockdown, Bree?
Dude, you're killing me.
Sorry.
7, 8 weeks?
7 weeks and 4 days.
Oh,
7 weeks and 4 days. Okay.
wow.
Yeah, it's Thursday for those of you who lost track. Good morning. Let's head over to the K-Wave News Zoom room where we have standing by from the Vigilance Committee, Lee Weber. Good morning, Lee.
Good morning, Chris. How are you?
Pretty good. Sabrina, you know the Vigilance Committee, they're doing a candidate survey thing. There's a lot of these committees that have come out election time, especially I think because this is, they would do the questionnaires and all that stuff with the candidates anyway in a regular election year.
Yep.
But I think it kind of takes on new light and new meaning in this COVID election.
Definitely.
Right?
And this is actually one of the surveys I want to see the results and the responses to. And Lee, if you could share with our viewers, listeners, people watching online, the details about the survey that the Vigilance Committee is conducting.
This survey was put out. It has a due date of 5 p.m. Tomorrow, and it's going to be published on our website, stayvigilant.org, on Monday, the 12th. So the survey, it's pretty simple. It's a nonpartisan survey. We don't take sides. We don't endorse people. Mm-hmm. The only side we take is the side of the community as it relates to open government. We want people to, let me back up for a second. I think the media in general, I'm not going to specify any, over the years has lost their enthusiasm and dropped off the responsibility page when it comes to keeping government accountable to the people. And I've watched it sort of creep in after 40 years in the media business, and now out of it for, 10, 11. And what we're trying to do is encourage people to be more conscious of the fact that the government officials have the responsibility to keep the community informed in a transparent way without having to chase them. And they should do this all on their own because it's part of their responsibility. The questionnaire is fairly simple. I will tell you right now, we have only had 7 out of 29 candidates respond so far. Hopefully this will encourage a few more.
Can you tell us who the 7 that responded?
I don't have the list.
Okay.
How many of the incumbents, Lee, have responded to the survey?
I don't have the list, so I can't tell you, Chris. I'm not the caretaker of the list. That rests with someone else.
Right.
I think the first question on it says, does our government do the right thing when it comes to openness and transparency? I mean, that's the heart of this. Do you, as a politician, as an elected official, as an employee of the people, do you feel that the government is doing its job of ensuring openness and transparency with the people who elected them? I mean, that really goes to the heart of it. Second question is pretty simple as well. When was the last time you were concerned about transparency with our government? And be specific. So when was the last time you as a candidate were concerned, and what were you concerned about? Third one is, what have you personally done to ensure openness and transparency in our government? What have you personally done? These questions aren't hard. There are recommendations on the list for adjustments in statute that have been run by council, and we're getting to the heart of what's causing some of this. If you remember a while back, Dr. Juan Nguyen came out and right after we went into this last PCOR one, and he initially said that the doctors in the physicians committee, the advisory committee, did not recommend going into PCOR one. They recommended staying in PCOR two, and I think that he sort of, I don't know if you want to say he recanted or he rolled back or he softened what he said. Doc's a good guy, and he basically, there was this gibberish going on after he made that statement, and then he said, well, the governor can do what she wants to do, and he's absolutely right, she can. But then why have a committee? Well, we come to find out that the committee didn't have a secretary, didn't take notes, didn't have voting, and as we found out from Dr. Mike Cruz when he was on the witness stand, they didn't recommend going to PCOR one. I think it's that type of thing. I think people who are elected have to understand who they work for, who they are responsible to. And they are responsible to the elector, the people who've elected them, and they're responsible as a whole to the community to do the right thing for the majority of the community, not a minority of the community. So that's what the survey is all about, is to remind them of this and get them to comment on it. I mean, I think you all have a copy of the survey, and that issue is sort of goes to the heart of what started this effort on our part. So I just I don't know. I don't know if you guys have any other questions. I mean, there's 7 questions in the survey. I could go through them if that's what you want me to do.
No, there's
No,
no need to do that.
I'd rather have you talk about. I know we talked about the physicians advisory group, but other issues of transparency and openness relative to the current pandemic. I mean, because they've used this pandemic, I feel like, as a reason, as an excuse, maybe a better word, to do a lot of things in the dark. I mean, the first thing the governor did was suspend the open government law. That was like right off the bat.
Right.
And I know that, I mean, for a committee like you guys, you're all about openness and transparency, nonpartisan. What do you think have been a couple of the most egregious violations of openness and transparency during this pandemic?
The most egregious was the suspension of the open government law.
That would be number one.
Everything else sort of pales by comparison.
Right.
I think another one is the legislature, the sitting legislature, who I kindly referred to as ooze in one of my columns. They haven't done anything. They virtually went into hiding right at the beginning. They have the authority to suspend that power from the government.
Yeah.
And but in doing so, they have to accept responsibility. And I don't think they want to do that, and I think that's why they've been silent on it. I don't think they have the courage to do that, and they haven't set up any mechanisms. One of the things that really bothers me is there's no plan. That the government doesn't seem plan that they put forth telling people what they're going to do and why they're going to do it and how they're going to do it and when they're going to do it. It's the basic who, when, where, when, why, how of journalism and the media. I haven't seen the media really exert a lot of pressure in this area, which is disheartening because that's really their job. They are the watchdogs of government, and they need to step up to the plate a lot more than they do, and a lot more aggressively than they do. And that's unfortunate, and that shortchanges the community as a whole. And I don't know that. Again, this is a slippery slope, and how much has the government spent? Where did this money come from? Who did they spend it on? What did they spend it for? One of the things that I know way back in the beginning, there was a short educational campaign that was done. It was done by one of your competitors. Ray Gibson did it. He and somebody else, I can't remember the name of the person. Reminding people how to be safe, what to do, wash your hands, keep your hands out of your face, wear your mask when you're not in one of your safe zones, like your home or your car, when you're alone or with your family with whom you reside, not your extended family, your family with whom you reside. And I know I've been involved in a few discussions with some people in the government as it relates to where most of these cases are coming from, what some of the indications are. I mean, some people are showing up to the hospital, DOA, and then swabbed for COVID, and that's a problem. I mean, if they were suffering from the symptoms, why didn't they go to the hospital sooner? I think a really solid educational campaign is needed by this government, and I don't see anybody screaming about that. Where is it? I know lately there's been some talk about that. I think particularly in the communities where English is not your first language. For the vast majority of Chamorros, English is spoken pretty fluently. There's not a problem. So, but we have a lot of other people who live here from the surrounding islands and from other countries where English may not be the first language. And if everything's done in English, there's going to be a lot of misunderstanding. And the other thing is, who's doing this? Is it public health officials? People they don't know? There are leaders in the respective ethnic communities on this island. There are people who the elders within the community have a lot of respect for. There are churches, there are ethnic churches within the community. And to me, putting something together that's not only spoken, but can be handed out to people would be a real positive move. And I think it would curb some of the misunderstanding as it relates to, well, can I wear this surgical mask for the next week? No, you can't. You can wear it for maybe 8 hours unless it gets wet, and in which case you throw it away and get a new one. And then where's the money being spent? Is the money being spent to supply people with this PPE equipment? Hand sanitizers and masks, some type of face shields. You guys look like you're from some kind of space cadet program over there with your face shields.
Oh, you got jokes, huh, Lee?
Jason had glasses under his face shield plus his mask. There he is. But it's good. I mean, what you're doing is you're setting a visual example for people of what they need to do. Me, I'm in my safety zone. I'm sitting in my home talking to you guys. I don't need a mask in here. The only other person in this building is my wife. That's it.
Lee, I wanted to ask though, what are your thoughts on the lack of, accessibility, no more press conferences from the governor?
Quite frankly, I don't know who the governor's advisors are. I don't know if the governor's making these decisions all on her own. I have no idea. And none of us do because of the lack of transparency. It's just not there. I mean, nobody's saying, look, the governor's tied up. She can't be at this press conference today, but the lieutenant governor's going to be here, or whatever that may be. And I think I was in a conversation the other day in which I learned that great military project that they put up over at NCS with all the tents, that hospital that they built and then they took down, apparently it's in storage down in Santa Rita, and I'm going to guess that's Naval Mag, and is available to the governor. Now, if the people of Guam knew that, they'd feel maybe a little bit better that you got a couple of 100-bed hospital capability over there. Yeah, but I mean, that has negative pressure rooms so that the virus is contained. Why use GMH as the linchpin for what you have to do because you're afraid you're going to overburden it when you know full well that you can put up another hospital. I mean, that's the type of thing that I look at and I go, well, that doesn't calm the fears of people. People are already worried enough. They don't need more worries. I mean, a huge segment of this community is unemployed.
Yep.
And I've heard folks say, well, you know, they're making more money than they did when they were employed. Well, that's not the point. There's security. There's a satisfaction from doing something for your family and being employed that comes. And it's part of it. It enhances people's personalities. It does wonders for their mindset about what's going on within the community. And they're participant. They're not a mindless little thing that gets pushed around the community at the whim of the government.
Well,
I mean, it's just,
I want
to
to
me,
get back.
it's just wrong. And I think getting more information out, being more open, being more transparent, you know, I also heard that the government made more money on income tax than it had budgeted for. Well, hello, you're paying people $900 a week.
Yeah.
And they're paying tax on it.
Mm-hmm. Lee, what are you guys going to do if only these 7 candidates?
I'm sorry?
What is the Vigilance Committee going to do if only 7 candidates respond to this survey?
Well, we'll publish the 7 candidates' responses, and we'll publish the fact that none of the other ones took the time to do it. And that should tell the voters a lot about those who didn't take the time to do it. It's 7 simple questions. It's not rocket science. It's what do you believe? How do you feel about this? What will you do if elected? That's basically it. And then it's something, oddly enough, that we can hold you to because you wrote it. And if you don't do it, then you have some explaining to do. And I think, again, it goes back to this creeping whole idea, this creeping idea of lack of transparency within the government. And it's creeped in because of the media. The media has not pummeled the government again and again and again and
I
again.
think, Lee, you probably haven't listened to the show because I know that I've pummeled them every single day.
If you're listening to highly partisan radio shows, then you're not going to know what's going on because a lot of the stuff you said during this interview, we've actually reported on. We've reported on the multi-bed hospital.
Well, the problem is this Skew, and for those of you in the audience who don't know what Skew is, it's the spread between how many radio shows there are compared to the people. Well, but the point is I don't want to be misunderstood. So I'm not going to make that assumption, Chris. There's a pretty big skew in radio listenership. It's spread pretty broadly in this community. So just because you guys are doing what you look at as a good job, and I'm not saying you're not doing a good job of putting pressure on the government. You are. You do it in kind of a comical way sometimes. But
because it's almost comical what's happening.
The problem is it doesn't happen across the board. Not all the media are doing the same thing. Yeah. And that's what needs to happen. There needs to be more, the media needs to be doing more FOIAs. The media needs to be doing more stories about openness in government. The media needs to be putting more pressure on government and not backing away. I think that's unfortunate. And it has. It's been a slippery slope and it's been sliding for years. I mean, I can tell you, even when I was in the news business, I saw it sliding. We did everything we could to avoid that slope. But it is. And a lot of it has to do with, well, maybe I won't get this next contract. Well, maybe when they put that purchase order out, I'll get asked, but I'm really the third guy in and I'm needed because you need 3. It's that kind of thing that gets pervasive within a community. And it's the thing you want to avoid. Mm-hmm. With a passion, you want to avoid it. And that's one of the things the committee's trying to do, is resurrect that feeling, that emotion, and drive that in the community. But the community has to jump on the bandwagon. I mean, when you lay off 35, force the layoff of 35,000 people, and don't lay anybody off within the government. That's very telling. I'll tell you, it's hard for me to believe you can't lay anybody off in the government and put them on the unemployment rolls too. I mean, but that's a political decision. People want to get reelected, and Guam politicians, I believe, still think that Guam employees are the ones who put them in office. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, all I'm saying is we put this out, and we're going to publish it, and we're going to publish the names of the people who don't respond with the fact that they didn't respond.
Right. Well, I look forward to seeing the results because, we spoke with the Progressive Democrats just earlier this week, and they only had 2 people that responded to their survey, and it's due like yours Friday. Also, the Action PAC, minimal response as well. Yeah. So
it's a much bigger problem than people are willing to admit.
Mm-hmm. No, we definitely recognize the fact that it's a problem, and I think that's the whole reason why with this show that we continue doing it, because initially our show was only supposed to be temporary, but we realized that people need to know what's going on, and we have been on this show every single day for the past, I don't even know how long now, calling for accountability, calling for transparency, and unfortunately, the governor and her team of advisors are up at Adelup acting like they don't have to answer to anybody. And you're right. Where is the plan? We've been asking about this plan. Haven't seen a plan.
Well, I don't think there is a plan. If there is, it's in a desk drawer somewhere. It's hiding. But,
right.
The
I
point
can't
is
speak for what other media are doing, but I know we're doing our job. Man. I said I can't speak for what other media are doing, but I know that we're doing our job.
Yeah. Well, I will admit I switch through radio stations, so I don't spend a lot of time on any of them.
Yeah.
So I move around, so it's hard for me to track what anybody does on a consistent basis. Mm-hmm. But then, there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
So, and I fall into the category of, most people have a favorite station, and that's the station they listen to, and then they don't listen to other stations generally. Right. I mean, that's just the way it works, unless there's some special event.
I get that, but you're coming on here and saying like, all the media, but I'm just saying that we're doing.
Thanks for the lecture.
Well, it wasn't pointed at you guys. It was a generalization, and I'm looking at it after spending 40 years in the media and looking at what it was now 50 years ago when I first came in, and how aggressive the media was across the board, all media. Some more aggressive than others, obviously, but I know the ones that I've worked with were very aggressive, and we got beat up a lot for it. And at some points, it was very costly for us.
Yeah.
But it was the responsibility that we had as media to be the watchdogs of the government. That's what we were there for, and so, and I don't think that's changed. I think the mindset. In many instances, not yours, the mindset in many instances has changed. Not in all, but in quite a few. And like I said, people jump through stations. People don't read all the newspapers. If you look at the circulation numbers that people publish, they get published at the end of September every year. Those numbers aren't anywhere near what they were. And the online numbers don't buoy that up. It doesn't make up for the loss. So what are people doing? I don't know. All I know is that on the Vigilance Committee, we are very, very earnestly pushing for more openness in government, and we have suggested, as you can see by looking at the list, there is recommended statute change in there that will protect people like the doctors who are on a committee who don't have to suffer legal consequences. They get sort of pulled back from that for making decisions. They can keep a list. Those doctors, I would be willing to bet, don't take notes because they don't want their name attached to decisions that come out that they don't agree with. Mm-hmm. And I can't say I blame them. But the point is that they should be free to speak their mind and be protected. not suffer consequences. I know Dr. Vince Sakamoto's that way. he's always been that way as long as I've known him.
Yeah.
He's always spoken out. But not all doctors are like that.
Well, thanks,
All right, yeah.
thanks, Lee. I look forward to seeing the results of the survey.
So do I.
Yeah. Stay safe.
And I hope we go past 7. That would be an excellent thing. They can't say they didn't get it. Everyone's received it.
Exactly. All right. Take care.
Thank you. Take
Okay.
care.
All right, we're gonna take a short break, and we're back with more of The Link on the Breeze.